Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the EASL Studio, your weekly hepatology news. And we've got a really exciting studio this week. We're going to have a very fast-paced 30-minute deep dive with my colleagues at the AASLD to talk about the liver meeting, which was just held in Washington in November. And I'm delighted to be joined today by a real expert group of individuals who are hopefully going to enlighten us to everything that went on. So welcome Saul Karpen, who is the president-elect of the AASLD. He's the inaugural chief scientific officer for the Stravitz Annual Institute, I think if I'm correct, for liver disease and metabolic health in the Virginia Commonwealth University. We've also got Dr. Allison Kwong from Stanford University Medical Center in California. And finally, we've got Mazen Noureddin from the Houston Methodist Hospital and the Houston Research Institute. So welcome, everyone. Great to have you here. So I wonder if we could just kick off, actually, by going straight to really what were your standout highlights from the meeting, just to kick us off. Mazen, shall I come to you first?
Sure. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, let me take a quick snapshot. And I want to give a shout out actually to Saul, who was the maestro behind the postgraduate course. And I had the honor to help him a little bit. He did the heavy lifting. And I think it was a wonderful postgraduate course from A to Z. There was, and I'll let him speak more of it. It's like through the life stage of a patient from infancy, I guess, all the way to elderly. So that was one of the big landmarks in the meeting. And I think everything now, right, post-hepatitis C era, that now we have first cure liver disease. Now there's a lot of focus on, I would say, the fatty liver, either alcohol-related or non-alcohol-related, and of course, always the complication of cirrhosis. And I will talk more details, Debbie, but I think it was a really exciting meeting. I do a lot of MASH and ALD trials, so there was a lot of data presented on MASH in this meeting, and I was very happy with the progress. New generations are coming, actually, a lot of presentations from junior faculty. So that was music to my ear when I saw them, and this is what we're going to see at AASLD or EASL.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. And what about you, Allison? What was the highlight for you?
Oh, the meeting, I mean, there's so much good science. I think that's really, really inspiring. I always love, actually, there were some really great keynotes that were just so great. But the highlight for the meeting always for me is just seeing just all the people who become, all the networking and the friendships and people you see every year over and over doing really, really exciting things.
That's really good to hear. And Saul, obviously you're the incoming president, so there's lots of exciting things ahead. But what was special in the TLM for you?
You know, it's funny, Debbie, I get energized each year by this meeting, and it just really pumps you up. It gets you excited about doing what we do, right? I mean, you know that you're among your peers and you get energized, you see cool things, you say, wow, I never thought of that. And what I really liked as far as major highlights is it was about 9,000 people. So in a word, we're back to pre-pandemic issues. We are not sitting there worried about, what's not happening. Are we sitting in our room watching things? None of that stuff. People want to be there. They want to be next to each other. They want to hear things live. And if you don't get a chance to hear things live, everything is recorded and it's easily available. It's really wonderful. I do this all the time, and I really encourage people to do it. People bring their A game to this meeting and to EASL, of course, but it really astounds me how many experts we have in the field, and they really do a great job. I really thank you, Mazen, for talking about the postgrad course. We made a theme of a lifetime of liver health, which actually the emphasis was on the elderly. And I have to tell you that this is an untapped need in our field. You know, thankfully people are getting older, but people are getting older with various degrees of liver disease and ramifications with every other organ. So that was a component of it as well. But I think that there were 200 sessions, 500 speakers, about a big patient group, which I think is really quite vibrant. It keeps us, I think, honest is maybe the best word, and really on point. And these are really great with the patients and the patient advocates. But also, it was 30% international, which is what Debbie, you and I talk about this, but I think people should know this. We really like to have a community, intersocietal groups. And so it actually hasn't changed. And there may be things to talk about that. But I was really grateful that people said that this is a meeting that they want to come to and that they get value from it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And if I'm allowed to say, a highlight for me actually was your opening ceremony. In fact, I found it quite touching, and perhaps for the listeners who maybe missed this, and I guess this is one of the reasons why we've got the session today. So we had an opening ceremony that was led by President Grace Sue, that involved former NIH Director Francis Collin, who spoke about the best of times. I think was it the best of times and the worst of times, a hope and a plan for action. And there was a fantastic conversation with Catherine Lucy, who is a newscaster from Bloomberg News, and also Senator Bill Cassidy came in at the end. I don't know if you could perhaps touch on that and maybe tell us a little bit about the importance of why that needed to happen at the TLM.
Sure. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to be a fanboy of Francis Collins, but I am. I mean, he's done everything that most of us want to do. Those of you who don't know, he was a basic researcher. He helped clone first the CF gene and then many others, muscular dystrophy, and among others. He really was a driving force for the Human Genome Project. He is really, he lives science in the setting of how you help people. And so much of it is genetics, but it's also very much more. And so he really likes to get things done. Really quite a remarkable person. And he just recently resigned after decades of public service. So he has that service mentality and really likes to leverage what I think is some of the powers that we have in the US, which is money and enthusiasm to really use that money for a lot of things like science and research. And that is still going on, people. The doors haven't shut. The problems are there. It's something that I'll give a talk about. But what I think he spoke about that resonated with me were some of the positive things that have happened that you just get a lot of negativity now. But really think about this. I don't know if any of you have seen this, but the first CRISPR-derived gene therapy for that was a liver disease was in the New England Journal about 4 months ago. Unbelievable story from CHOP, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Kid was born. A nurse said, this kid doesn't look right. Got an ammonia. The ammonia was sky high. They're at the right hospital in the right place. Kid's ammonia was handled within like a week or two. They knew the gene, which is CPS. They knew the mutations, and they were all poised to do a CRISPR-derived patient-specific therapy. Now think about this. This is in this era where we're thinking that FDA is unavailable, etc. Lovely relationship, and I'm blanking on her name. I've heard her speak. It brought tears to my eyes when she spoke, but he highlighted this patient. The abbreviation is KJ, and this patient was cured within, I believe, 7 or 9 months of the identity of the specific mutations, and the kid's on a regular diet. So if this doesn't get your juices going as a translational researcher, I have absolutely no idea why you're in the business. This is something that I love to see and talk about. And he used that as a centerpiece of, yes, things are ongoing. What was interesting was he brought Senator Cassidy in. And I give Grace Sue all the credit for this. You know, she got Francis Collins and he said, hey, why don't you come? And I know this is not a US audience, but for a US audience, Senator Cassidy is a hepatologist. He's at USC. He heads the Health and Human Services Committee. So he has a quite powerful role in helping guide the future of health and health support in the US. And they had a quite good discussion about where things are going. You know, there's reasons to think in the US that in the current political climate, people want to cut costs. And the real question is how one cuts costs, right? I think that most of us in the academic world and the clinical world really feel that this is perhaps not the right approach. That's very draconian. But I feel that it's going to be cuts, of course, that the impacts are going to be felt, but it's going to be, in my sincere hope, because I love this country and I love how we support research, is that there are great people in government and great people at all of the academic institutions who are not going to see this fail. So we know that there's going to be a wound, right? And maybe some bruising. And, you know, most of us hope that it's a shallow dip. That's all I can say. But we're not turning our back on research. You can also point to other things with vaccine hesitancy that's now been brought to the forefront. And I have to say, as a pediatric hepatologist, it's abhorrent. I can remember times in the ER where I have seen kids with H flu meningitis, and I can see in my head the kid, the family, and what the spinal fluid looked like. And I never will see that again because of vaccines.
Yeah.
And so this is something that we think. So I think it's good to have a public conversation. And if I can, Debbie, just talk one quick thing. One of the things that Grace has championed is we really believe in advocacy. And there's advocacy, which is, if I can use a word, performative, which is not what we want to do. Yes, we don't like this or we don't like that. Well, how do you try to affect some change? Well, we have on our website on the AASLD an easy way. Within a minute, you can write to your congressperson. And by doing so, you actually get their attention that you care. And there's been a few thousand of these that have already gone out. So it's not just AASLD members that can do this. Anyone who lives in the US, you put in your zip code and you say, bam, this is where it goes to. And you get letters back from them. Because if you don't complain, you can't complain. Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is really, I think, really strong. And it's a very strong group. The last bit of that is that we're hoping to push through for this audience a Hep C elimination act. It's already been vetted by the government that it's going to save money. We know other countries have done a fabulous job on this, and we're catching up. But we want to do this in every nook and cranny of the U.S. And we're hopeful that it's passed the Senate. We're hopeful that it can be presented in the House and go forward.
Oh, that's amazing, Saul. And I can tell you that you've got all of EASL and the globe behind you. So we really support everything that you're all doing. So hang in there. We will get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we move the conversation along a bit, and Mazen, I'm going to come back to you. And we were actually having a little bit of a conversation as to whether we think you might be the record holder for the most late-breaking abstracts that you presented. But certainly, I know that you've conducted a huge amount of fantastic clinical work around MASLD and MASH. And I know you, in the session that I chaired, you presented a couple of late breakers. So I wonder if you could give us a little bit of an update around sort of the MASH drug development at the moment, and maybe some of the exciting phase 2, phase 3 trials that were presented at the TLM.
Yeah, absolutely. And Debbie, thank you for highlighting MASH and the great efforts going to it. I've been doing this for some time, and if you recall, there were times where we thought it's very hard to get drug approved, clinical trials are failing, but almost now 2 years ago, we have less. First drug approved and then second followed. So let me highlight the multiple things. So starting in the US now, we do have 2 drugs approved, resmetirom and semaglutide. One is a THR beta receptor, the other one is a GLP-1 only drug. And they both achieved the 2 primary endpoints in their phase 3 trials. So in this meeting, there were abstracts coming from these programs. Professor Newsom presented analysis to show that it was weight independent, the effect of semaglutide. There were also some presentation from resmetirom showing an effect up to 2 years, and there was also a hint of or like study where it showed like stopping drug led to rebounding some of the effects, and restarting kind of mitigated that. And also here, like what I want to highlight, although it's less scientific, there were a lot of new big sponsors entering in the MASH space, and that happened through multiple acquisitions in the from small and medium-sized biopharma. So I just want to assure the audience, like, MASH is strong. I also look at the field as not in compete, rather it's a combination therapy or precision medicine. So there were other presentations in the meeting using multiple drugs. And if I want to mention a few really quick from the phase 3, efruxifermin, professor, which is the FGF21, Professor Radzu presented data on their NIT. I showed data on their CSPH compared to the placebo, and how the drug actually improved CSPH. There was a big question in the field. In cirrhotic patients, do they improve using drugs or not? And that has been shown now with resmetirom as well as efruxifermin. So that's big news. And this all came from the Symmetry trial that was published in the New England Journal. Professor Anstey showed the survodutide data, NIT's presentation from it, and that was quite promising. And efimosfermin, another FGF21 entering the phase 3, showed their 48-week data. I think the biggest presentation of the phase 2 trial was the histology study from the IMPACT trial, which is pemvidutide, GLP, and glucagon, that hit NASH resolution. Fibrosis improvement was there, statistically significant on AI, and people lost weight, which was statistically significant, all at 6 months. So that's a promising drug to enter phase 3. And lastly, a couple of two drugs I want to mention is DD1, which is GLP, glucagon as well. Remarkable data on MRI-PDFF and HU6, which is metabolic regulator of the body, also had a very remarkable MRI-PDFF data. So you see, like, it's like there's so many in phase 2 and phase 3s, and I think it's good for the patients, really. 2 drugs approved, many in the pipeline. We have seen reversibility of cirrhosis. I shouldn't say that, maybe improvement of fibrosis and cirrhotics with improvement in CSPH. So, I mean, this is very exciting time for researchers and our patients. So I was quite happy, and I think many people around the globe, of this progress.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you think 10 years ago in this space, we had nothing, there was, absolutely nothing. So it's just, the sea change is just amazing and so positive. And Allison, if I come back to you now, and I guess, obviously we're talking about the drugs that are potentially going to change the field for MASH and MASLD, but metabolic medicine and all of the challenges that presents is still putting a huge burden on those people, on the service, when we look at people who are presenting with end-stage liver disease, and when it comes to transplantation. So I don't know if can you comment on how we're dealing with sort of that increased number of individuals that are coming through with advanced cirrhosis, and how we're dealing with that?
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, if Mazen is successful, we won't hopefully need transplant for we won't have an increasing demand for transplant for these patients, and hopefully they're not getting to the end stages. But there are still a lot of gaps, I think, in identifying these people early, and they come to your doorstep in late stages and needing transplants. So they come also with a lot of comorbidities and kidney disease. And so a lot of the push is to try to integrate care, bring in multidisciplinary care, all the specialists who need to be involved, not just hepatologists and surgeons doing the transplant, to make sure transplants are successful in the short and long term. So are we prepared? I can't say for sure, but hopefully that's where we're moving towards, that we will be prepared if there's an increased demand.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're prepared, but hopefully in the years to come, we might actually see a decrease in demand, which will be lovely. And Allison, you mentioned one of your highlights was some of the keynote lectures. And I know that one that actually I attended was the Leon Schiff lecture. Elliot Tapper spoke about symptom science and how we should put treating patient symptoms at the centre of everything we do. And of course, he loves talking about his trial with pickle juice, amongst many others. But I wonder if you could sort of talk about some of the interesting things that people are presenting in that area for us.
Yeah, that's such a great, yeah, it was such a great talk, and really a focus on the patient voice. I think we've, the way he framed it was, we've done so well, I think we're doing better with survival, but survival is not the only thing that matters. Obviously being alive does, but there's also the quality of life. And so even pre and post transplant, in especially in the chronic liver disease space, there's definitely lots of room where we can improve patients' experience and their quality of life, and how studies should address and account and improve this aspect is increasingly important. And I think a big theme that's been coming out, we've, I think, been very inspired by the Baveno definition of recompensation. So I've heard much more this year about going from decompensated to recompensated, and what that quality of life means for patients, rather than just survival.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic topic. And also, I think we've been associated with recompensation often being because we remove the disease driver, whether it be alcohol or hepatitis C. But actually, the fact that potentially we could use therapeutic modalities to get to that point is hugely exciting, isn't it? Yeah. So I'm going to come back to you, Saul. And of course, you're a pediatric hepatologist by trade. And what sort of things were presented at the TLM for sort of children and young adults that perhaps is worthy of us taking note
Yeah,
of?
no, thank you for that. And certainly I was thinking about what would be of relevance and what would I like my adult hepatology colleagues to take out from it. And there were a couple that I think are really quite cool. One was actually at the clinical plenary. My former colleague Marshall Desai and a critical care group looked at echocardiographic features of cirrhotic cardiomyopathy in infants with cholestatic and non-cholestatic liver disease. We published a paper a while ago for biliary atresia that it's there as early as, a few months of age, and it may impact on survival pre and post transplant. They expanded this to hundreds of kids, and the average age was, I think, something like 15 months, and they really had a strong correlation with LVMI and any sort of adverse event, pre-transplant as well as peri-transplant, so those that needed to be on replacement therapy, etc. And in fact, showed that it works better than PELD as predicting adverse outcomes. So PELD, is an add-on thing. So bottom line is do echoes.
Okay. Yeah.
And that they're helpful. A couple other things that I think are worth mentioning. One is that some of you may or may not know, but I mentioned about gene therapy early on from Dr. Collins' talk. There's actually a robust, awful hepatotoxicity that happens with some of these AAV vectors. And you probably have seen this in the news for non-liver diseases, but quite severe liver failure in this. So that was just started. And I think that's something all of us need to know about. And really talk to our heme and heme-onc colleagues, and also whoever else in our institutions are working on gene therapy. I would say from the other bits, there really wasn't anything new as far as new diseases to talk about. But from an adult side, there's really a couple good talks about the roles of genetic variants that are quite relevant. If you want to know one gene, it's ABCB4, and you need to know that one. That's the phospholipid transporter. It's the number one reason for, even in heterozygous state, that you're going to have unexplained liver disease or progression of it. And if you want to learn more about it, look at two talks again at the post-grad course from Dr. Trauner and Villarino. They really talked about this. I think that would be of high relevance. It's a lot easier to get genetic testing now than before, and there are better interpretations. And the last bit that I would want to say is there was this great study of a person who did a randomized controlled trial of using tenofovir in pregnant women in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah.
Did a randomized placebo-controlled trial of pregnant women, 28 weeks or so of on tenofovir and off, and they had no transmission and no problems if they were able to do this. This is really quite incredible to do something like that. So I think that that has ramifications on many fronts, and I think I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, well, huge amount there to take in. So there's some really important things there. And one of the things that I always come across, and I'm seeing more and more, is sort of the rise of AI and digital health. And actually, when you look at the rooms in the TLM, they're always overflowing when you have any kind of session on AI and digital health. And I wonder if you could potentially, or one of you, or comment on that and why that's important. Who would like to have a stab at that one?
I mean, I guess I'll say it's obviously hugely important. There's so much you can see by how full the rooms are and how much people are excited about it. Whether it's ready for prime time, I think it's going to creep up on us. So we may not, it may be here before we really, it probably is here before we already all realize it in our ways. But I think there has to be in the clinicals. I'm in California, so I'm in this hotbed of they're always trying some new AI tools, and it's come into abstracting clinical notes and listening and writing your notes for you. So it's really helped make they're trying to make, I think the clinical tools are becoming apparently useful in terms of making our lives better. I think we have to be cautious in the research space and the trust of using these tools before, but I think it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, and I think it's our younger colleagues, isn't it, that have really got a handle on it more than us. It's they're really embracing it. So I think it's definitely going to be our future colleagues that are going to be really on this. I mean, we are running out of time, but there's a couple of topics I would love to cover, and I'd like to come back to you, Mazen. And there was a lot of discussion around non-invasive testing in the TLM and across the globe, to be honest, in the hepatology community. And whether there are biomarkers and ways that we can assess liver disease without doing biopsy. I wonder if you could sort of briefly comment on some of these important issues that were discussed in the TLM.
Absolutely. And I think, Debbie, where it's coming from, that for drugs approval, for instance, in MASH, and we still require liver biopsy in our phase 3s. And the regulators have been really open for the idea to change things using NITs. We also have the ALD and MASLD trials that are increasing. And the question is, how do we avoid liver biopsy and the bottleneck that created and variability? So there were multiple sessions on that, Debbie. There was a session talking about the regulators and how to conduct clinical trials. There was also a follow-up on a recent paper by the FDA, where rightfully they opened the door for NITs to submit proposals for reasonably likely surrogate endpoints. I mean, as you know now, I guess you guys in Europe started the transient elastography before it came to the US with Hep C, and then we adopted that in 2013. And now, like in the US and in Europe, when we treat MASLD or ALD patients, we use transient elastography, liver enzymes, some new biomarkers. So it's already happening in clinical practice, and we are just collecting more and more data from observational study, real-life studies, as well as clinical trials, to try to replace the biopsy completely in phase 3 trials in ALD, MET-ALD, and MASH. So there's a great movement, and you saw, for instance, the room was also full in that FDA session, follow up on that paper. And I want to emphasize that our colleagues from the FDA has been really instrumental in pushing the envelope and be forward thinking and how to move forward in the right way.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic, fantastic. And Saul, I'm conscious you're going to be taking over as president in January, and you will be heading up the TLM in, am I allowed to say, in Denver next year? So I wonder if you could share with us some of your hopes and dreams for what we'll be seeing next year, and what maybe we can get excited about.
Sure, sure. So I'll be quick on this. And, first, I'm really honored by this. And it's not just all of a sudden you get thrown into the job and now, you have your hand on the steering wheel and you can go whichever direction you want. No, it's really nicely planned. We have a great governing board and we really work things through. And I would say that moving through some of the things with the educational initiatives where we're making them much more, I would say, active and easily available. The SIGs are really extremely vibrant and really helping drive things. And in fact, there's going to be a new SIG that's going to focus on digital health and AI. So I think that's something that really fits into your question beforehand. We really are looking at continuing our multi-societal approaches to common problems. It just makes no sense to have two separate sets of guidances or guidelines or whatever level we want to do it. And when it makes sense, there could certainly be some sections. So I thank you, Debbie and EASL for that, because we want to do that and we're really working close on that. But I think the thing that's probably not known to most people is we got a gift from one of our members for research, a quite large gift that in addition for us to do about almost $2 million a year of funding for research and travel awards, it's going to end up doubling in the next couple of years. So we're really quite excited about what this opportunity is going to provide for researchers in the field. And that's really something that we're going to be shepherding through. There's other normal things that we're all, helping along, but I think that's something new. And I think your audience would like this very much. The opportunities for getting funded liver research are few and far between. And so having this is really fantastic through the AASLD.
Oh, that sounds
And
wonderful.
you asked about Denver. Denver's a new
Yeah.
city. We want to do a new city for Europeans. You say Denver, it's actually the third or fourth busiest airport in the US. Lots of flights from everywhere. So it is not something that you're going to have tremendous trouble getting to. It's a very great city. People are going to really enjoy it, and we're mixing some things up. It's going to be a bit day. It's going to be a day earlier because it's the last time we're going to cross with Diwali, and we're going to have a lot of fun in Denver.
Oh, it sounds great. And you had pickleball
Oh
in
yeah.
Washington. What are we going to have in Denver?
Well, it's probably going to be pickleball. I don't think we're going to do bull riding, but I think we're going to definitely stick with pickleball. And I thought it was great. We missed you, Debbie.
I know. You made me chair a session. That's the problem. I couldn't play. I was really upset. Well, we're coming to the end now, but I'm just going to come to each of you and maybe just ask you, and I'll start with you, Allison, just what do you think we can expect to see in 26? What's going to be exciting for you in particular in your area of expertise that we're going to be seeing in 2026?
Oh gosh. Well, I think we already answered the AI question. I think that's just going to keep growing and growing, especially with the new SIG and the programming they'll be putting in, not just AI, but informatics and technology and digital innovation. Where I'm interested in transplant is, I mean, that's changing a lot too, as more than, I mean, it usually changes anyways, but it's also expanding and changing a lot from the donor and the recipient side. So we're going to see a lot of, and the political side. So I think we're going to see a lot of growth in transplant as well.
Oh, wonderful. And Mazen, what about for you?
Tons of things. I'm excited about the EASL AASLD effort to put the document that we're working on Met-ALD, ALD, and MASH, which will hopefully direct clinical trials in a better direction. I think we're going to start seeing some more data on NITs and how to replace liver biopsy. And we're going to start probably seeing the phase 3 studies, NIT part, which is not going to lead to approval, but yet shows you the efficacy of the drug in phase 3s. So a lot is going to happen in 2026.
Well, exciting. And do you know what, Saul, I'm going to give you the last word. What are you
Debbie,
excited about?
See, I think that there's going to be some pivotal trials in diseases that have not been seen, such as biliary atresia is going to read out next year. That's not been seen. I think that we're going to continue with all of our collaborations, networking, and mentoring. I think that that's really among the most rewarding aspects of it and nurturing people through their careers. So I'm just going to, tag on to what Mazen was saying that, you know, the NITs, the drugs. It's so exciting to see finally we have MASLD where we're going to actually be making a difference with these patients. And it really energizes our field from one where we both, quote, study liver disease, which is in our names, to now really actually treat and cure.
Yeah, what a great way to finish. So look, I'd like to thank all three of you, Allison, Saul and Mazen, for a fantastic discussion and a huge update on everything that went on at the TLM, and for those of you that didn't get the opportunity to go. So thank you very much for joining us today. We'll draw the studio to a close. Next week on the EASL studio, we've actually got a paediatric topic, Saul. So we're going to be asking what can be done to safeguard young adults from steatotic liver disease. So that will be an important discussion. So please do all join us from the AASLD side as well for that discussion. That will be great. And remember also to become a member and join the EASL family. And I'm sure you'll say the same for the AASLD family too. So we look forward to really working more together in the future. So thank you very much, and goodbye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.